We have a great program. I'm anxious to hear Lori and David. Um, we have any veterans in the room? Would you please stand? Thank you so much. Thank you. The CBL board, any board members, would you please stand? Larry, you might as well just stand. How about first-time visitors? Any first-timers? Hey. Welcome. I want to recognize Willow Basket and Carrie Roper for feeding us today. I've heard some great news about the food already. And of course, Janetta, who's always great on the videography. Thank you, Janetta. So you know our luncheons are the second Tuesday of every month. We meet here in the Beckendorf Center. Just note, for those of you that think ahead, in March, the college is closed on our regular second Tuesday, so we moved it up to the first Tuesday. I think it's the 5th of March is the first Tuesday, so it'll be different. It'll be the first Tuesday, and we'll have announcements out for that. Future speakers. Next month, we have a really great story. Lenora Purvis is going to be speaking to us, and she has an awesome story that will get everybody's attention. And then in March, Barry Hart of Team will be speaking. Jeffrey Klein in April, and then Ron Hinn in May, and we have some others lined up. Haven't quite committed to a date yet, but they'll be coming soon. So we'll have some great speakers here this year again. And today's sponsor is Matthew 614. It's an anonymous donor, a sponsor that has been sponsoring for years, wants to remain anonymous, but Matthew is just a great, don't let your left hand know what your right hand's doing, is basically that verse. That's what he wants to do. And also something that we will have from now on, anybody who wants a receipt for a cash donation, the cash donation you might make for coming, Kimberly will have them at the front desk, or she has them here with her now, so you can just see her if you want a receipt for that. And now, our Honorable Chamber of Commerce President, Bruce, is going to come up and introduce our speakers.
Let's see. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bruce Hellegeist, President and CEO of the Greater Tomball Area Chamber of Commerce, and I have the pleasure to introduce our speakers for the Christian Business Luncheon today. And it's a great day to be alive. It's a great day to be in Tomball. It's a great day to be right here in this room to hear two phenomenal people. I wanted to really first, since I am here to let you know that as the Chamber of Commerce person, that I get to see the goings-on behind the scenes. And that is, I just want everybody to know that I'm friends with the mayor, longtime friends, and longtime friends with the city manager as well. And I know these people behind the scenes to where they're just good people. They have a job to do, and they do it with ethics, and they have great moral character. They are elected by the citizens, actually the mayor is, to do the right thing, to lead us. And I will tell you that they do. I get to witness that really on a daily basis. And they both have their faith behind them that I would say that they use first in all of their decision makings. I want to deviate for a moment, and that is to say that people let me know often that Tomball is just a special place, and it is a special place. I will say that I can go to any state chamber of commerce conference, and another chamber executive will say, well, my hometown or my place is the best place. I don't ever say we're the best place, but there's something special about Tomball. And I see heads shaking, and you know what I'm talking about. And I would say that it's from years and years ago, but I will point to members of a local Hispanic church called Iglesias La Hermosa, Iglesias La Hermosa, since 1990, after their services, their Sunday services, every Sunday, rain or shine, they go to the Four Corners flagpole and where the Welcome to Tomball sign is, and they pray for our community. They pray for its leadership, the city, the school, the chamber, the citizens. And in James 5:16, it does talk about that the prayers, the faithful, fervent prayers of a righteous man availeth much. And I want you to know the power of prayer is very effective. And we have prayer warriors that I know of in Tomball praying for our leaders, praying for our citizens, praying for our community. And we need to take that with a big level of gratitude and allow our love, our light, our faith in Christ to shine to others. And I would say that it is, because so many claim that, Tomball is special. Really just a smile. I know some of you have heard me say this before, but it's worth repeating. A smile and a kind word to someone breathes life into them. Who doesn't have a bad hour, minutes, days? We all do. We all have something going on. And a smile and a kind word, what does that cost? Nothing. It makes, actually, when someone smiles back, sometimes they may not smile back, but if they smile back, doesn't that make you feel good? To wave at your neighbors, those on the street. I want to read a couple of things for you, and that is, these are words from our Lord in more of a personal way. Because I wanted to say this because we do have, I wanted to read this to you because we do have tough days. Because we are Christians does not mean that everything go easy at all. I would say that it's really, we're probably more under the gun than anything, because Satan is really out to destroy, in my opinion, church and family and those who are believers, to bring things in our path that really bring us doubt. But these are words from Jesus. Softly I announce my presence. Just know that Jesus is present in this room, and we thank him for his presence. Though I have all power in heaven and on earth, I am infinitely tender with you. The weaker you are, the more gently I approach you. Let your weakness be a door to my presence. Whenever you feel inadequate, remember that I am your ever-present help. Hope in me, and you will be protected from depression and self-pity. Hope is like a golden cord connecting you to heaven. The more you cling to this cord, the more I bear the weight of your burdens. Thus, you are lightened. Heaviness is not my kingdom. Cling to hope, and my rays of light will reach you through the darkness. I am with you and for you. When you decide on a course of action that is in line with my will, nothing in heaven or on earth can stop you. You may encounter many obstacles as you move forward towards your goal, but do not be discouraged. Never give up. And I love Joshua's words, be strong and courageous. And God says that 3 times, be strong and courageous. Do not expect an easy path as you journey hand in hand with me, but do remember that I, your very present helper, am omnipotent. Much stress results from your wanting to make things happen before the times have come. One of the main ways I assert my sovereignty is in the timing of events. If you want to stay close to me and do things my way, ask me to show you the path forward moment by moment instead of dashing headlong towards your goal. Let me set the pace. Slow down and enjoy my presence in your journey. I thought, since I've known David and Lori for a long time, I'm ad lib, and I will a little bit, but I'm going to our first speaker will be our city manager, David Esquivel, but I'm going to introduce, or I'm going to read the bio for our mayor, and as David ends, then Mayor Lori Klein Quinn can make her way up. But since she's a lady and the first lady of Tomball, I will let you know that, yes, I've known she's part of the Klein family, and I had someone asked me yesterday, Lori, they thought you were married to a Klein. So I had to explain, no, she's part of really the heritage, the legacy of the Klein family here. And as many have heard, and I know you hear this all the time, but the Klein family that we know here in Tomball, they're known to take you from womb to tomb. Their Dr. A.B. Klein, pediatrician, brings you into the world. Shirley Klein Harrington was a school teacher. She taught you. Lori's dad was an attorney, and he took care of you. Robert Klein owned the grocery store, and so he fed you, and then Uncle Teddy Klein buried you once you passed away. So I'd have to say that A.B. and Rosa Klein did a great job in telling their kids what careers to be in, because they're all somebody that we do need in this life. But Lori has been our mayor since May of 2022. She's a native of Tomball and Tomball High School, where I know she knows what I'm going to say next. She was homecoming queen and Miss Tomball, and I'll leave the year out. And the reason I mention that is because usually if a young lady is homecoming queen, that kind of says it all, because they are voted on by their school, the entire student body. So Lori has always, in my opinion, and in many people's opinion, really had it all. She graduated from the University of Houston, receiving her, she graduated cum laude. All the Kleins are smart, by the way, too. They're always smart. But her BS in accounting, and she has over 43 years of experience in public accounting, and she recently retired, had established Klein Wealth Management, and where she was a financial planner. Lori was a founding member of the Lone Star College, as it's named today, Foundation, and she is currently a board member with the Christian Business Luncheon. And in May of 2014 and 2020, Lori was elected as a councilman, serving position 5 with the city of Tomball. And in 2015 and 2017, she was elected by her council to be the mayor pro tem. Lori is blessed to have 4 daughters and 6 grandchildren. She is a member of Salem Lutheran Church. David Esquivel is the city manager for the city of Tomball. And don't be nervous, David. I'm not going to say anything. David was not homecoming queen or Mr. Tomball, but he is quite awesome, and he hails from the Panhandle of Texas. So he's one of us from Hereford, Texas. He attended Texas Tech University, and both of them, hands up. And he earned his Bachelor's of Science degree in Civil Engineering and became a registered professional engineer in the state of Texas. After 6 years in a civil engineering consulting firm with a engineering consulting firm in Lubbock, David started his career in government, and he spent his time in his career in government for the last 19 years. You were public works director at first, correct? And then became city manager. He's been here in Tomball for 8 years. The last 3 years, he's been our city manager. Can't believe it's already been 3 years. So thank you for allowing me, Paul, to introduce our speakers and taking a little extra time. But David, I welcome you to the stage. Let's give David a welcome.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you. Thank you for having us here. It's a privilege to be here to be able to speak to you and kind of give you an update about the status of the city and what we've gone through, and then what it looks like moving forward. I was told I just have a couple of minutes to speak because of Bruce's long introduction, but I'll try to go quick. And so, typically when we do this presentation, the mayor and I kind of tag team it together, but today I think she said just go up there and do it. So we'll answer questions at the end together, if that works. All right, so the things we want to cover is 2023 in review, kind of the highlights from that, upcoming projects that are coming up. As you know, Tomball is absolutely growing, even with the economic trends that we're seeing with inflation and the interest rates going up. What we see here in our local economy are still very, very good news and a lot of good indicators that growth is still going to happen. And we see it on the ground now, and we're seeing it and projecting it in the future. with all of that, there's always going to be challenges that we face. And truly, the measure about any organization or any person is how do you rise up for those challenges and how do you meet them? And I can tell you that we've had our fair share of challenges, and not just globally and regionally, but we also have internal things that we deal with. And I can tell you, we have some of the staff members here, that I'm extremely proud of our staff, and I hope you are too. It's hard for the public to see behind the scenes about what goes on, what does it take to do certain things, and a lot of the different areas are a lot easier than some. When you start talking about public safety, you can kind of see what they would have to go through and what they do to do what they do. But it's people like Drew in Public Works, in City Secretary's office, and all of those other support functions that without them, we couldn't do a lot of the things that you see and a lot of things that will be presented today. And then we'll finish it up with what our future goals and what the outlook is for Tomball. And I can give you a sneak peek, it looks good. So year in review, the growth and development, we did see some slowdown. I should say stabilization. There wasn't really a slowdown. What we've seen is because of inflation and some of the interest rates, a lot of it had to do with supply chain issues about getting building materials and things like that we saw the slowdown in construction, but it wasn't that the fact that the growth was slowing down. We did see kind of a stabilization where the growth pattern wasn't just a exponential curve going up. It started to flatten out some. So we saw some of those, and then some of the other indicators that we look at kind of the collections that we have with sales tax. With Tomball being a commercial node per se, where it's not just the economy of the local within the city limits, we truly are a regional hub to where we have a lot of people coming in. And so sales tax is a huge indicator for us. And not only did we exceed our budget projections for sales tax, we have recorded the highest collections in Tomball's history as far as sales tax. And we continue, knock on wood, that the recent reports still show that we're still trending very strong in that sector. Our property valuations, as you can see, went up 25.1% in 2023. That's not just the valuation of your property, but that's added tax base to the valuations, and so that's what's being built and being put on the ground. And so there was an increase in valuations of property. Another measure is how much people we have coming to town. And so one of the things that we do, and Chris Lord with our marketing department has done an excellent job of continuing the festivals that Tomball is known for, but also looking at the different demographics, because Tomball is changing. And so we need to meet the needs of what the new folks are coming in. So making those adjustments and looking at different things that we can do in order to meet the needs that the community wants. Our marketing of the special events and attendance there, when we look at those numbers are not only meeting pre-COVID numbers, but they're far exceeding some of those. And I'm sure if you've gone to our German Fest, if you've gone to the Chamber's Tomball Night and the Holiday Parade, you start seeing that it just seems like there's quite a bit amount of people that are out there. And it's absolutely true, because we see it when we start looking at what kind of services do we need to provide to be able to support that. When Public Works is out there pulling trash bags at German Fest and they count how many trash bags they pull a day, you start seeing that the attendance is taking up. The number of police officers that it takes to manage the holiday parade is absolutely huge. And so those are the things that we look at, and kind of the resources that it takes to be able to do these things that we notice, yes, absolutely, the attendance is going up. On the commercial side, you can see we listed just a few of those major projects. Macy Distribution opened up. If you don't know where that's at, it's the Grand Parkway and 249 on the corner, on the southwest corner. There's part of a larger development of 240 acres of light industrial that is all within the city limits of Tomball. The Business Park. Business Park is a crown jewel of Tomball, and they've done a great job of developing that. All of that property has sold out, and I believe it's about 150 acres worth of development that the Tomball Economic Development Foundation actually developed. And then we are getting a Costco. And so that is being built on the corner of 249 and Holdreath on the northeast corner. Construction is currently ongoing currently. So that's huge news for us, especially if you look back to our sales tax collections. The Costco projections, that impact it will have on us is going to be, it's going to be great. So as we move forward, what do we need to do? And so what we've done is we've done a lot of master planning and kind of going through all of the different needs in all the different sectors of the city in 2023. And what those generate, they generate a lot of listing of projects, of capital projects that need to be built and developed. And so now we're on the mode of identifying the funding to be able to do those, and then going into the construction phase. If you've been downtown, you've seen a lot of construction going on and around the areas. Well, that's our alley project where we're trying to improve the walkability, improving that utilitarian alleys that are usually used just for the back of the buildings to actually be an amenity or a facility which would facilitate a lot of people walking and making it more attractive. With all of our festivals that are going down and being planned for downtown, it is important that we try to maximize that space. And so it goes back to a conversation that we had in an earlier presentation about why are we doing some of these projects? And it really boils down to that is strategically done. We go through a strategic planning process, we identify what we need to do, and one of the things that come from that the council is absolutely adamant about, that Tomball must keep its character, it must keep its small town feel, it must keep our values, it must keep all of those different things that make who we are what we are. And so the only thing that, absolutely. And so the way that we can do, as far as a city government, to be able to utilize the taxpayers' funds is do the projects, do the infrastructure that will support all of those different things. Because if we don't do that, then a lot of those things become a should-have, could-have. And we don't want that. We want it to be a fact. We want to actually make action happen. And so the projects that you see here, the alley walkability project, the North Sycamore parking lots, those projects go to help support the growth that's going on in downtown. And really, the sky's the limit for downtown. There's projects that are still being in the planning phases that we can go over, but those are continuing. Talking about infrastructure, we still have to meet the needs that all this new growth is going to be coming to us, and how do we support that? Water, sewer, your basic needs, transportation on your thoroughfares. Those are high dollar ticket items that we have to get ahead of the curve as far as the planning phases, because not only do we have to identify the project, but we have to start doing the design phase, and then really the funding is the more critical one now in my career. As being an engineer, that's one of the things that I used to love. I used to love to be able to do the projects, design them, and see them and construct it. Now, as life has gone on, and the role that I feel in now is I worry the most about how are we going to fund these projects. And with the pressure that the council makes on me and says, by God, you're going to do this, to do it in a way that minimizes the impacts on the taxpayer, the utility rate payers, and how do we leverage other funds out there. And so it's all one complete package that we have to do in order to be able to do those projects. So you see there some of the infrastructure projects that we have. Water supply is a huge thing for us, as you know from this last year and the drought that we had. We had to go into our drought contingency plan early on. And again, it was to help preserve and protect the water system, to make sure that we had the water supply there available. But we're starting to see with our consumption reports and the levels of how much we have to pump out into the public that growth is absolutely already here. All of the different reports that we have of how many lots are coming in and how many new houses are going up, new businesses, we directly see that in the consumption reports for water. Same thing for wastewater. We're in the design phase for our South Plant expansion. And I'll tell you, when I first got here as a public works director, that was on the horizon. You know, when you start looking at projections and our growth, we started to see that we're going to have to, that's one of the big projects that we'll have to do here in the coming years as growth continues. Well, we've hit that milestone where we're at 75% of the capacity of that south plant. Well, the state of Texas requires and mandates that once you hit that milestone, that you have to start your design process to be able to get the plans done, and you can move straight into construction. Well, the cost estimates for doing this plant expansion, when I first started to look at this project, were in the neighborhood of about $30 million. Fast forward to today, where we're now in the design phase and should be going to construction in 27, I believe. The cost estimate for this plant expansion are $70 million. And that's a lot to do with the inflation that we're seeing, a lot of the supply chain issues that are causing costs to rise up. And so these are things that we're facing as we do these different projects. We are the supplier or the distribution of natural gas for the city. And so that, again, we're adding another supply gate to be able to meet the demands for gas. And then at the end of the day, when we have all of these new families and new people coming into town, we still have to provide those amenities, those things that promote quality of life and family-oriented things for them to do. And so that's why our parks are so important to us. And we have major renovations and construction for our parks with Matheson and Juergens Park. I wanted to drill down kind of some of these projects, and if you've seen, and we talked about the downtown alley projects, there's 2 phases to that, and what we're seeing right now is phase 1, where you actually have the hardscape, the concrete going down. Now we're removing all the asphalt, putting in the concrete, fixing a lot of the drainage issues, doing the utilitarian improvements with the dumpster pads and the dumpster enclosures, and then providing connectivity with the surrounding blocks with at the addition of sidewalks. The next phase is going to be I think, really the icing on the entire cake is where we have all of the aesthetic features that start coming in. You start seeing the pocket park that we have designed going in next to Cisco's restaurant, along with a restroom facility for the north side there. You start seeing a lot of art being incorporated in this area. And just landscaping and furniture for as you go out there and walk around, you can enjoy your time in downtown. So those are all underway as far as phase 1, and then we'll go straight into phase 2. Kind of a schematic about what's being planned. You can see there the alleys back there, their concrete's going to be textured. It's going to have a stone look to it, a lot of landscaping, a lot of maximizing all of the different areas in there to try to get either an aesthetic appeal and adding some landscaping to it, or adding an amenity for people who are just walking in downtown. An elevation view or a front view, you can see this is what we're targeting. This is what we're trying to do in order to clean up and make the whole aesthetic look good. It's hard to tell on this elevation here, but if you notice the power poles, if you go out there today, you look at the first thing your eye pretty much sees is the power poles and all of the lines that are so low. Well, the project is incorporating, partnering with CenterPoint in installing new power poles that are much higher, and we're trying to raise all those wires to be much higher so we can get it out of the line of sight. I think that's going to clean up the look of our alleys quite a bit. And then this isn't necessarily a city project, but we always partner with our Economic Development Corporation. They actually purchased the First Baptist Church property, and they've working through a lot of their conceptual plans and schematics. There's discussions about doing the main sanctuary to become like a performing arts center. The old sanctuary, the other piece would be still kept as maybe one of the ideas was an art gallery, and then creating a culture arts kind of district connecting to the museum district that we have there hidden in the back. And so this project is absolutely going to be a great addition to the whole idea and approach and strategy for downtown. Talking about our parks and amenities. Jurgen Park, we are scheduled, I think, construction for 2024 to do this playground. This playground is called Louis Playground. Louis is a little boy, I think he's 4 or 5 years old now. He has dwarfism, and his parents have always wanted to develop or provide a all-inclusive playground, which regardless of abilities of kids, they can all play together. They're not having to be, separated. And so this actually is coming into fruition. It's a partnership with the TEDC, with the Hospital Foundation, with, I think the hospital actually gave funds for this project as well. And so what this is, it's an all-inclusive playground that's going to be added to Jurgens Park. The theme of this park is going to be everything construction. So Louis loves everything construction. So he loves playing on dump trucks and excavators. And in fact, he came out to our public works yard. We took him into an excavator, a dump truck, and all those type of things. And he absolutely loved it. So we're extremely excited about this park. And hopefully we are one of the few in the region that actually are looking at adding this amenity. But as you talk around, that's something that's becoming more and more prevalent, which is, I think, is absolutely wonderful, and it should be. And then on the other side, on Matheson Park, there's major renovation going on now. If you've been here and lived here, you know the wooden park structures that were out there. With them being wooden, they all rotted out and they needed to be replaced. All of that was taken out. All new play equipment was put in. We tried to keep with the same theme and feel of the wooden park, so that's the look of it. But the addition of pickleball courts, because pickleball is a phenomenon that's absolutely blowing up across the nation, and so that we get a lot of requests for those. And so we're adding pickleball courts, a new splash pad. You see there an elevation about what splash pad we'll be adding next to the pool, along with walking trails all around the park, and then a lot of improvements to our softball field that's there. So again, it's adding to the amenities that we have, trying to maximize and leverage those things, and to be mindful about the cost that goes with these things. Recently, the City Council approved the purchasing of the old Regions Bank that's located on Holderreath in the corner of Main Street. And if you know where that's at, that's that big building that is pretty much stripped down. And the reason why the city purchased that property, because we saw that as an opportunity that as we grow, and we're having to add tremendous amount of new staff people, and our facilities that we have are getting outdated. There's a lot of maintenance that goes with it. They're inefficient. And so it is time to start looking about what is going to look like for the future of Tomball for city offices, and so we can provide those services. This central location seemed like to be a great option for the city. So we moved forward, we purchased the property, and so we're now moving into putting together some conceptual plans to see how this would look. In the interim, the plan is to demo that building that's out there and then create either a parking lot or maybe a kind of a pocket park in there, so that way we can utilize that until we decide and are ready to build the facilities that we want to build on there. So kind of talking about a lot of the projects, but kind of the back end that it takes to identify these projects. You have to go through a process of being able to evaluate and then bring out the needs. What does the community need? And so one way to do that is to go through a master plan process. And a lot of these master plans, if you look at, let's just pick water supply, because we just finished that one this past year. You have to look 15, 20 years in the future and do the best you can to project those development trends. To be able to do that, you've got to know what is going and where it's going to go, to be able to provide those infrastructure in those different locations. And so that's when we start talking about our land use planning. So identifying where the commercial corridors are going to be, where you're most likely going to have your residential, multifamily has become a big thing as home prices has gone up. They all require a tremendous amount of infrastructure to be able to support all of those different things, not just from the water and sewer side, but also the mobility side. And one of the most costly things that have to go along with all of this that you're building, and you have to address the drainage issues. If you can address all of those different things, and specifically the drainage, you really open up quite a bit of property that can be developed in a responsible and a reasonable way. And so we've gone through the process of doing master planning for all of these different areas. And with all of these different master plans, they then create a list of projects, or our CIP projects that we call it. And then we have to go through a process of identifying and prioritizing those different projects. And a lot of times it's going to be, your limiting factor is going to be how you're going to fund a lot of these projects. So going into more about the challenges that we face, we talked about inflation and what that effect has on us, on our CIP projects, and doing these major projects of like the wastewater treatment plant costing $30 million just maybe 5-6 years ago to now it's $70 million. It affects our operations as well. So not only do we have to project and to see how much it's going to take to do projects in the future, but today, what is it costing us today to be able to provide those services? So to buy a simple service truck for Drew out there in Public Works, when we saw 18% increases in those trucks. Chemicals to be able to treat water, 55% increases. Diesel fuel, I mean, we see these in our daily lives, and we absolutely see them on trying to do our operations. And so that has caused us to kind of take a step back and rethink and relook on how we traditionally have done our operations. And so to give you an example, we used to budget for trucks and vehicles and equipment on an annual basis. So we take our needs, and so what do we need for next year? We present it to council for that approval for that purchase of that next upcoming year. Well, the time that it takes to be able to receive a truck nowadays are extending from when you put your order in, you may not receive that vehicle for 6, 10, 18 months is one of the longest lead times that we had for some of our equipment and vehicles. So we've gone now from a annual request to put in the budget to a 2-year request. So that way we can put that 2-year needs in today with the anticipation that we'll get it in 12 to 18 months down the road. And we can plan on how we're going to pay that in that time too. We've gone from doing annual contracts for a lot of our purchases to a much shorter window because they're just not going to honor any long-term contract. You can get into let's say a 12-month contract for water treatment chemicals, but that price, since they don't know what it's going to be, you'll be paying an astronomical amount of money. And so we try to weigh the options that we have, and if it means that we're bringing to council a contract to be approved every 3 months, it makes sense because we can save that amount of increase instead of going to a longer term. When before, the thought was the longer term, the vendor had a secured sale, and so the pricing could go down. It's no longer the case. And so this slide here is really just a snapshot. You don't have to read what the project is. I just want you to focus on the number at the very corner at the bottom. And so this is a list that came from our water and sewer master planning CIP list. So we haven't added all of the other capital projects from all the other master plans that we're trying to get done. And so as you can tell, that number is huge. And so we're going through the process of identifying what is the priorities that we have to address, and then seeing what is the impact to the taxpayer, the impact when we're talking water and sewer to the ratepayers, because taxes do not go to pay for these projects. It truly is going to be out of your water bills or your utility rates is where you recover the revenue to be able to pay for these expenditures. So as you can see, that's a huge challenge for us is capital needs. The needs are many just because we are an older community and infrastructure needs to be replaced, but we also are growing and there's a lot of new infrastructure coming in, and to be able to support that adds to our needs. Challenge is personnel. And what I mean with that is that the workforce today has changed quite a bit. After the COVID, it's a totally different landscape out there when you start looking at personnel. And so one of the main things that we look at in an organization like ours, and really any organization out there, is the recruitment and retention of your employees, because all of this stuff that we're doing and all of that we're trying to plan is all great and well, but you got to have the good people to be able to implement that and make sure that that continues on. And so we actively try to address those different things in the best manner that we can. And so we've gone through a review to look at our classifications of our job titles and job duties, looked at the compensation model to make sure that we're not at the highest, because that's just not, I think, where we need to be, but we absolutely need to be competitive in the market. We are looking at our traditional work model, where, I don't know about you, but when you have somebody apply for a new position, one of the first things that we get asked now is, can I do this from home? And it's interesting to me that that is the new trend, because I've actually heard that question come to us. Somebody that's applying to be a police officer, somebody that's applying to work in public works in a crew. I'm like, you can't do that from home? No. I mean, that's not an option. But there are certain positions that we're looking at that we absolutely are looking to add that and change our traditional thinking that we can incorporate some of this remote work and even modify some of our work schedules. And so there's things, and I know that there's a tremendous amount of more work that we can do in order to add to our recruitment and retention of our employees. This slide I included so you can see what that means when we start talking about personnel, and you see the public safety obviously is going to be heavily personnel centric. And then in public works, when you start adding all the capital project needs, it's more on the operations, it's more about those direct expenditures rather than the personnel. And I cannot do a review of 2023 without discussing our cyber attack. I can tell you this is not a slide that I'm proud of. This is not a slide that I wish I had to present. But if you did not know, back in December of 19, the city was a victim of a ransomware attack. What that attack did was it took down everything that we had. The only exception was our 911 call center. That stayed up because it was segregated from the rest of the network. But as far as our backups, as far as all of our financial software and everything was absolutely down for about 2 months. And when I talk to the public about those, the front-facing, the out-facing in, there wasn't a whole lot of, from what I can tell, disruption, or a lot of that the public noticed that we were going through this absolute nightmare within the city. I remember on the 19th when really we looked at how many systems it affected us, and going in there and calling an emergency meeting with the staff directors and telling them what we were about to face. The question I got was, okay, so what are we looking at? We're looking at about a couple of hours being down, or a couple of days. What's the time frame so we can kind of plan for it? I had to tell our folks that we don't have anything. We got nothing. So then they started asking, well, what does that mean? And so, and they started asking, so what about all of the different utility accounts? How are we going to send out bills? We don't know where their accounts are. We don't even know the consumption. We don't know what we need to bill them. We got nothing. And so then they started kind of that long meeting that we had, kind of going over a lot of the different things that we were going to have to go through. There was a lot of tears shared in that meeting. They knew that, just to send out water bills, we were going to send out crews to every single water meter, pull that meter physically out so we can record the serial number, so we can attach it and recreate the database to be able to just record the consumption rates. And then the idea, because well, then where do we send the bill? Because a lot of our commercials, they don't have, the bill doesn't go to the physical address. It could go to another state. And so we didn't have that information. And then we look at how we're going to do payroll for all these employees. And so you can start seeing that this absolutely turned into an absolute nightmare for us. All the while, again, I'm so proud of the staff because the public seeing what we were going through was very, very minimal. There was no disruption, thankfully, for our public safety. We met payroll. That one was interesting, and I wish I had a picture to show you to show that we've had police officers that were really good in Excel. We had all of our HR department, all of the finance department going and pulling out tax tables and creating spreadsheets to be able to do all of the different things. And so going through our hard paper copies to see what deductions for what employees, to be able to get it as accurately as we could. Tremendous amount of hours spent to do that. And all the while, we were trying to deal and do our recovery, our backups, negotiating with the ransom attack people. All of that took about 2 months. And so I can say that recovery took almost all year to be able to get back to a more normal situation. And I think that the staff has done an excellent job as far as that. Yeah. So as you can see, all those things that we're talking about, there's current themes. I mean, there's themes that always pop up, and there's things that are done. And so the approach needs to be a very organized, a very systematic, and a very strategic approach to be able to handle all these different things. And then plus, when you get thrown something from left field, like a cyber attack or a winter storm, knock on wood, the one that's coming up that we're preparing for. So just like, I mean, it's perfect cue, because that's kind of what we try to do, is that, trying to have a systematic, strategic way of doing things and really having a good thought process with it. This is reality. As you can see, anything can happen. You start trying to identify one area, you have to take into account everything else, and so it becomes an absolute maze. And admittedly, we have been trapped in one of these bubbles here, and then so we start forgetting about other things. And so what's important to always remember for us, the lessons learned is we always have to resort back to this, resort back to being strategic and organized, and so you can manage it in a proper manner. And so our goals and outlook. At the end of the day, we want to absolutely try to manage our growth responsibly, do it in a physically responsible way, but never forget, we have to prioritize that, maintaining our small town feel, maintaining what makes Tomball what we are. And then so our outlook is absolutely great. If we're able to do those things, then our sense of community will continue to be strong. And then we can address all of our challenges. Because I say that in confidence because we are doing it today. And then we'll hit our goal of being Tomball continues to be the place to be. So with that, well, I threw out another slide. I'm sorry.
Okay. No,
So
good.
we've kind of gone over all of this right here, so I'm just going to skip that right there. That was it. So thank you very much.
You can stay up here. Yeah. And we're going to be here as long as you want. I'm going to summarize this, and we'll be here as long as you want to answer any questions about any project or anything that you want going on, that you would like to find out about or pique your interest on there. But we have the best city staff of any city anywhere. It's wonderful. Where did Drew and Chris Lord go? Did they run out because I walked up here? Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. The city, as you look at all of that information, the process that David has brought to the city, that he has implemented in all these different areas, it's like running a huge organization. We have about 250 employees now, and we have on our website looking for more. But we also are building the culture that has always been Tomball. And it's the citizens. We have gotten more citizen involvement, more input, more citizen committees. We have gone through, and that's what we're here for, is to serve the citizens and the businesses that call this home. And so when we look at our councilmen who are elected and their vision, we're all different. We all have different opinions, but we all agree on one thing: we love this town. And in our opinion, we work together to make things happen for Tomball. And Councilman Dunnigan, he's the tree man with Councilman Parr. When he got on there, he said, we want to preserve our trees. And we know that the road was coming in and wanted to put medians down our 4-block area of 115-year-old Main Street, which in majority opinion would really destroy the culture of the town. So we fought that, and we are going to have a walkway median at the railroad track, a pedestrian median, but what we're giving up, we're going to have 2 roads that are going to be one way, so we'll have to learn a little bit of a traffic pattern. But we are going to preserve our trees and have no medians on our Main Street from Four Corners all the way over. And that was citizen involvement, called a citizen meeting. 250 people showed up. We had workshops, TxDOT came out, we gave 3 different proposals, and the vote was by the citizens, online and also at the meetings that we had here. And number 2, no medians on our Main Street. And so by that, then, how do we preserve our trees? People say, we don't want our trees to be gone on Main Street, but at the same time, TxDOT is going to cut the roots. The roots are underneath the road. They're going to cut the roots. The trees are going to die anyhow. So what the negotiation was that we take back part of, it's about $2.6 million that we can put into amenities, and part of that is growing our trees till that road comes in. And so we will be able to put back similar, well, probably not as big, but bigger trees than what we have. Not this size that TxDOT gives us, but the bigger ones to have the ambiance of downtown. That was all of these council, your elected officials, and your city staff and citizens working together to come up with how do we make this happen. Because what we don't want is 20 years from now, okay, 30 years from now for some of y'all, 10 for a lot of us, we don't want to look back and people go, what were they thinking? And that is why we have asked for so much citizen input. When you look at all of our structure, that $122 million on that last slide, you said that is how much that we have for a budget this year. Our budget used to be about 60s, but Tomball also has been very fiscally responsible. I know for the last 12 years, being involved on council, you don't spend all that you make. It's just like running your household. You take some of that money, you put it in reserves. So preserves, I'm thinking of food, aren't I? Reserves, in order when the time comes, that is when you pull from your reserves. We have, legally, you're supposed to keep about a 20% according to our audit. Ours is 70 and 80% that we have kept in reserves, and that is how we are able to pull the money now to put in infrastructure. Because if you can't flush your commode, if you don't have good water, if you don't have good gas, you cannot grow. And we want controlled growth in our 13, 14 square miles because we're hoping to annex more, not uncontrolled growth. So we're very picky with what comes into the city. So, but we have to have a way to preserve infrastructure and to build infrastructure. And there are 10 projects under design and infrastructure, 9 of them under construction and infrastructure. Of course, the most important is that the pickleball courts will be done this year. So, but those are all having to do with infrastructure of water and gas and streets and sewage. And if we have the infrastructure, we can continue to have controlled growth. If you don't have infrastructure, you're not growing. And a town that's not growing will die. And that is what we will never want to happen in Tomball, and that's what we're working so hard, along with citizen input, elected officials, our fabulous staff, to make that happen. What we have done this year also is taking a look at all the documents that come from a compliance place, so boards and commissions. We redid boards and commissions applications, and I want to encourage every one of you, if there is anything you are interested to, please go on our website and that should be on everybody's computer, City of Tomball website, Facebook. And go ahead and put in your application to serve on a boards and commission. We keep those on file for 2 years, so if someone resigns or anything opens up, we go there to look to fill it. And we also put it out that we are asking for more people to get involved. Charter review. The charter review is the Magna Carta of our town. So that's the rules of our town. And we looked at it about 10 years ago. So we now established a charter review committee of citizens saying, I'd like to be on it, and some appointees. So they've gone through that. We're going to have a public workshop so they can go over the findings. That's going to be on the 5th, Monday? No, whatever Monday is. The 15th. The 15th is the workshop. It's going to be before City Council. Please come, let your opinion known, because this is your town, and these are the rules that govern your town. The next thing we're working on is ethics and code of conduct, and so that is what we're looking at as elected officials, because our job is to come and go as the vote is, but what we need to do is leave this area better than when we found it and have the organization. The city staff, we hope they stay forever. They're there. Oh, we have code of ordinances. I know that Bruce mentioned somebody was upset about, didn't feel like they were treated correctly. But we have, oh, thank you. The code of ordinances is, how we do things. They're the rules. Now, the rules apply to everyone. There is no one in this city that's above the rules. But anyone can challenge the rules and say, hey, I don't like that. I'd like to change it to this. You come and you talk to our staff. It comes before our city council. There are variances that are granted. There are different committees you can go to. But you have to have a starting place of the rules. And we have changed ordinances before. We are also in the process, if you want to get involved, we are redoing our zoning. When zoning came in 06, 08, it's been a while, a lot has changed in this town. Maybe having that land zone that doesn't make as much sense now. That is beginning to start, and so we are asking for public involvement on that. So please, if you have any concerns about how something is zoned or how a direction of growth is going, now it's time to hear what everyone has to say and come get involved in the zoning. So we're looking at our zoning, we're looking at our ordinances and our procedures. Our tree ordinance is going to be coming up. We also are preserving our history. We have worked out an agreement with the college, the county, and the city to preserve our historical documents and have a city archive where people can feel comfortable bringing their old pictures, getting them scanned, giving them back to them. And that way we can build a history of Tomball, hopefully one day to have a history tour of Tomball that we can have. Our marketing has done so many events that have brought in people. We had 3,000 people at the Christmas lighting, and we increased the lights to make an ambience. We had remarks like, this looks like a Hallmark Christmas. I said, is anybody getting married? And that's how those movies end. But the Hallmark Christmas, it was beautiful. We've had 30,000 people at the festivals. We now have a new festival of a disco coming up. So a disco festival. But more and more people are getting involved, and we're expanding the depot. We've had citizen-led events, Tidy Up Tomball. That was a direct outreach. Amanda Trickey said, hey, we've got too much trash in the street. Ever since we kind of got split with commissioners, that 249 is a dividing line. Kroger, if you're in Kroger, that's Commissioner Briones. If you're at HEB, that's Commissioner Ramsey. So we deal with both commissioners because we have our town kind of split down the middle there. And so what we were used to of having more trash pickup and all helping each other, we needed to come up with something, and Amanda Trickey took that on as a citizen-led. She got the nonprofit. Jonetta is involved in that and on the board. And so they had over 100 volunteers to pick up trash out of our 180 people showed up to pick up trash. And May 4th is the next trash pickup. You get your stick, you get your T-shirt. It's wonderful to see that. So that is the type of, that's what Tomball is. It's a caring, loving culture, and everything that your city staff and your elected officials are to help pour into that culture. And that's what we want to keep doing for the city of Tomball. You know, a lot of people ask me, why did you do this, Lori? You were retired after 38 years. Monday had just become part of the weekend, and I was, oh, you too? And they asked me about why I would consider going into public office. And I said, well, when they asked me, I said, I need to be in prayer on this and to get comfortable if this is really where the Lord is calling us. And all of us have experienced the calling in whatever we are doing. Because according to Colossians 3:23, no matter what we do, we need to work as if we're working for the Lord, not for man. I love this town. One day I woke up and went, okay, let's do this thing. So that's why, thank you. But right now I feel the calling that this is where I need to be at this time of our life. And a lot of the city council are like that too, that this is what they're called to do. And so we have the privilege of serving y'all. So any questions? I know it's later than we normally stay. We will stay as long as you would like to answer any questions about any project, including our Russian ransom. Should I not say Russian? Uh-oh. It was Russia. But a Russian ransomware attack. And it wasn't just us. It was Deer Park and Travis County and Dallas PD. I mean, big cities. And Tomball, I'm going, how did we get on that list? So, but we were. And the city did a great job walking through that. It did make me happy to see the old 13-column green accounting paper again. So that, those of you, yeah, there's a few of you who remember that. But that is exactly what we were doing, is everything was being done by hand until it could be brought up. And now we are very tight on secure on everything. Yes.
Okay, the recent purchase of the Regions Bank, has there been any definite plans on what we're going to do with that?
Right now, we are going to raise it. We're going to demolish. I think the contract's been let to demolish it or is getting ready to. And we will probably be putting more parking, our park area, our parking. We're also looking at mobility. How do we get people up and down on either side of Main Street? What are some suggestions there? Councilman came up with some good ideas there. But for now, it's going to probably be 3 years before we actually start turning it into City Hall. It's going to take at least that long for the planning portion of it. And right. That's going to be where City Hall is going to be. And so in the meantime, we'll probably make it a park and parking. So, yeah. Any other questions? Well, thank you. Thank you so much for the privilege to be able to serve you, both as an elected official and staff.